I believe that it is important to achieve as much as possible in as small amount of time as possible, knowing that you're probably going to fall short, but if you never fall short, then that means that you were missing out on what you could have achieved.
Shout out Stephen Covey. He wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It actually talks about time management because you're not actually managing time. You're actually managing yourself and the use of the limited amount of time you have.
Sometimes it's after I put my daughter to bed. I stay up till midnight, 1 a.m. prepping items. If I'm not sending items out, we ain't going to Disney. Hashtag Amazon paid for it. But
Cheers, gentlemen.
John Bay.
And welcome back to another installation of the Dough Bois Podcast. Today it is going to be just the home squad. It's going to be your boy Flipping It with Cisco and our lovely Studley co-host. We got Alpha Logan and Golden Locks McGill with the fire background. And today, if you really want to dig into our minds and how we time manage our business and our day-to-day lives, you want to stick around for this whole episode because we have a robot who has been optimized to time manage his life.
Optimized? I don't know, but we're certainly trying to get there.
That's for sure. Time management is definitely going to be a big part of not only your Amazon FBA business, but just in business in general, and really just even your personal life if you want to accomplish anything. If you have been following Logan's YouTube channel, you can tell that he's been posting some new content about different habits that he wants to create, and I'm going to assume one of those habits that he wants to optimize, even though he's been doing it for a while, is time management. So, Logan, how does time management play a role in your day-to-day life and in your business?
It's so important, and I think my situation is a little bit unique where I'm doing a lot of work, like everyone's busy, but I'm doing a lot of work across a lot of different industries. So I think I have to, be really disciplined in time management and just how I'm able to execute on all the different things that I do. So it is crucial.
And, we don't want to leave out Formosa McGill, Golden Locks McGill over here, because if you have been an advocate listener of the Doughboys, you know that my boy over here is one of the best soccer coaches in the Illinois area, okay? And he didn't get there by twiddling his fingers, okay? So how does time management play a factor in coaching, in sports, and in your day-to-day? Especially because I know you also have, multiple jobs with Alpha Candle and another W-2 job in coaching.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to note is shout out Stephen Covey. I think I'm saying that right. He wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And when he actually talks about time management, he actually changes the narrative, and he talks about it in terms of self-management, because you're not actually managing time. You're actually managing yourself and the use of the limited amount of time you have. And so I think of that little paradigm shift right there made all the difference for me. It's about taking those little moments you have in the day, the little snippets of free time you have, and being ultra productive with those and just giving yourself short, little achievable tasks. And I think if you really attack that with that mindset and that perspective, you can get a lot more done with a lot less time in the day available.
Yeah, I like that paradigm shift a lot because really time happens whether we want it to or not. What we're doing is managing ourselves and how we choose to use that time. I like that.
Yeah, I think, talking about time, one of my favorite quotes actually comes from J. Cole, because I think if I'm quoting him correctly, he said, if time is money, what is time if money is... Wait, no, how does it go? Logan, you probably know it.
I actually know the quote you're talking about.
Yeah. How does it go?
I'm not sure.
If time is money, and if you have no money and time is all you got. Something along those lines.
I'm picking up what you're trying to put down.
Time. Yeah. This was very, very much so fumbled. But I guess my whole idea of it, right, is that they say time is money, but if you have no money, then time is all you've got, right? So you have to, if you don't have any money and you're starting a business, you have to prioritize the same 24 hours that Bill Gates has, that Logan has, that Josh has, that, Tim Cook has, to make the most of it, to make your money, right?
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a lot of different factors in managing your time. And the way I look at it is a couple different ways, right? So none of you guys asked me because obviously I'm not that important in the podcast, but I also have to manage my time very wisely because not only are we doing this podcast, and I'm one of the hosts. Not only do I have an Amazon business, not only do I try to have a social media presence, not only am I a husband, not only am I a father. Actually, no, that's basically it. That's the list of things that I am. But it's hard to juggle all of it, right? So I think one of the most important things when it comes to time management is setting up your priorities, right? So setting up what in those items that you need to get accomplished or things that you have going on in your life, where does what prioritize where in everything, and that's how you kind of can get everything accomplished that you want to get accomplished that is important to you. I think, I can share one thing that actually happened recently today within, the three of us is we're trying to figure out our schedule to record this
It's
podcast,
insanely difficult.
right? It is because we all have busy lives. We all have different things going on. We're not, this podcast isn't the only thing that's in our lives. Is it important to us? Yes. Is it important for us to share value to you viewers? Yes. Is it important to us to continue the connection in our friendship? Of course. But for me, family is basically one of the top
Yeah.
priorities in anything. So therefore, I've told them that, like, regardless, rain, shine, sleet, rain, hail, doesn't matter. My days, Saturday and Sundays, unfortunately, I'm not available to record a podcast. Fridays, it's a little difficult just because of other reasons. So my days are Monday through Thursday, and that's the priority of those. But it's important for you to set your priorities not only for time management, but for your own sanity and happiness. So I don't know how
So
you guys feel about that.
no,
How would you
Cisco,
prioritize your day?
that's a question as you were talking I was thinking about. So uh, shout out Stephen Covey again. I'm gonna keep bringing him up. So he is actually talking about
Or
loop back to the beginning when you're talking about Logan being a very optimized person. He's talking about the fact that one thing you can't optimize is time with people. So your friends, your family, these relationship things. You can't make it efficient, is what it is. So you're spending time with your family, and that's something that it's just like it's a sinkhole. No matter how much time you divide out for all your other things that you're in control of, your family time, it's always going to want more than even what you give it, and it's not something you can really put like, oh, I'm going to hang out with my family from 5:30 to 6. No, you can't do that, right? So, so how are you managing all of the other things in your life that you can put time restraints on, but your family you can't? Like, how do you manage that? I guess relationship there between the two.
So it's I think it's really hard. It's going to be a balancing act, and it's never going to be 100% optimized, right? So there's going to be peaks and valleys to it. But I think the most important thing, especially if you have a family or you have like a partner or a significant other in your life, is the communication part, right? So most Saturdays, I have no idea what's going on past 11. Prior to 11, I know I have to take my daughter to dance class. I know we have to practice dance and then finish up any weekend homework that we have. After that, I have no idea. I don't know if we're going to have random plans that come up with friends. I don't know if we need to do some grocery shopping, like different things come up. So that's why I block out all of Saturday. So I have no idea what errands need to be run until the day actually kind of unfolds. Sunday, it's the relaxation day. It's the one day a week that I actually try to spend some time recharging, right? I think I have a hard cutoff with you guys on the podcast at 9:15 or so, because that's the time that I put my daughter to bed and I spend my quality time with her, reading her book, just fooling around before, putting her down to bed. So those times are all set. Obviously, they're going to want more time with me, and that's just where the communication aspect comes to it, right? So I have to communicate with my wife my other priorities of items that I need to get done. A big priority is making sure that I spend time sourcing every day, that I make sure if I do have any shipments coming to the house that those get prepped and sent out in an efficient manner. And what that looks like sometimes is after I put my daughter to bed after this podcast, sometimes I stay up till midnight,
Yeah.
1 a.m. prepping items. Now, if they're like beauty items, then I do it in my room, and we put on our show, and I just prep while we're watching our show together. If not, then she understands that I have to be away to essentially pay for Disney. If I'm not prepping, if I'm not sending items out, we
Hashtag
ain't going to
Amazon paid
Disney.
for it.
Okay, hashtag Amazon paid for it. But so that's another aspect of it, right? Time blocking out for those other priorities, which would be sourcing. And, as you guys know, I have a W-2 job, so I have that I have to set time aside for, and then just communicating with your partner, letting her know what times you're going to be doing X, Y, and Z. Another thing is that although I am mostly OA, Fridays, because I have to go physically into the office and I'm in a very dense area with a lot of stores after my 9 to 5 job, typically Fridays is going to be now the one day that I do RA, just because it's the only way you're going to find those bangers that are
And you
100%
got to service
ROI.
that addiction a little bit.
Yeah, you have to. Like, hold on, let me see if I can
There
find
we go.
something. Like, all right, perfect.
Favorite
Dang, it
part of
doesn't
the
have a clearance
podcast.
sticker on. But these were clearanced out for whatever reason at $10. Why? I have no idea. And then what else? What else?
You
What
got
else?
150 ROI on
Nah,
that?
I can't show this one. Something like that. And then like diapers, bro. Diapers, men diapers.
Just random RA
Right?
finds.
These are also random RA fines. These were like $2. Why? I have no idea. They're selling for like 20
So
something.
so I want to jump
So
into Josh what you said about you can't be efficient with people when you can't optimize time with people. I'm going to disagree to an extent. I absolutely hear
Hmm.
what you're saying, and like just like here, we got on our podcast to record a half hour ago, and now we're only 10 minutes in because we got on. We talked a little bit of business, but we were also just kind of talking, goofing around for a little bit, right? You can't 100% optimize time with people, and you shouldn't really strive to, because you should want to just genuinely enjoy that time and see where it goes. But I also think there are things that you can do to optimize that time. So, for example, just a couple days ago, I was hanging out with a friend, but we were also door dashing. We were being productive and making money while we were spending time with each
Mm.
other. My mom is
Mm.
a part owner in my candle business. Sometimes, we'll sit down to maybe watch some TV, but we're definitely talking business at the same time. We're kind of being productive. Josh, literally last week, you and I scheduled a pizza party for 3 months from now. I would say that's
Yep.
us being, very diligent with our time. We're scheduling something that should be like, hey, do you want to go do this tonight? But no, we're really busy, so we have to schedule it 3 months in advance. And it's helpful to have
Yep.
friends that are on kind of like the same wavelength of you. Um, some of my friends I cannot do that with, but some of them I can, and I really appreciate it. And then you guys know Ty Lopez? He was the Andrew Tate before Andrew Tate.
No.
Really? No? You should look him up. He was,
Ty Lopez. I have
yeah,
no idea who that guy is who
here in my
spent not
garage,
not his last
knowledge.
but like 3 years of
Cisco,
his
you
life
know who he
here.
is. Josh, do you?
Who?
No, I don't know. Who he is.
Iced coffee
Anyway,
hour?
check him up. Cisco, you know who he
I know.
is.
I know Ty
That was a
Lopez.
really good podcast when he came on
Yeah,
the Ice Coffee Hour.
yeah,
Shout out to that
absolutely.
podcast. But anyway, I think it was
It
actually on
really
that
was.
podcast or
The
another
second
one,
time too.
but he was talking about how he has a spreadsheet, and like this is crazy, but he has a spreadsheet for the important people in his life, like friends, family members, and he sets up like all the time that he has throughout the month or whatever, and he makes sure that a certain percentage was allocated to those people, and if not, he like adjusts it. So he has a spreadsheet, and then he has a pie chart. Crazy. He's trying to be efficient and optimized with his time, but what that's doing is ensuring that he's spending quality time with them.
Okay. I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
It's definitely different.
It
No,
is
I
different.
agree.
It's funny that you bring up Ty Lopez. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring up Ty Lopez just because he said something the other day that I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense about it's better to be a prince than it is to be a
Yeah, I
king
like
because
that a
a
lot.
king gets no
Yep.
freedom and has
Yep.
everyone's eyeball. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And then I think it's hard if you do become a king to time manage because you have certain expectations of you. For example, um, just to just bring it up, like for example, Miles, Flip for Miles, right? Everyone knows he goes on live 5 times a week, right? And so if he stops doing that, I'm sure he's going to get comments. So at this point, he's kind of obligated to stay at the schedule. How he feels about that schedule, I have no idea. Maybe he loves it. But I'm sure he does have a sense of pressure to him to do that, even though it might not be a priority for him anymore. We got a little bit off topic. Go ahead,
Well,
Josh.
I was just saying, is a great point by Logan, and actually, he does that all the time, especially even when we're hanging out. I mean, I think just Tuesday, I went up there just to get breakfast with him, and I mean, he did it again. We were talking business while you're doing it, so that is a new perspective for me. You can be
And not only that,
efficient.
but we kind of send agendas before we meet too. Like these are the things we need to
Yeah,
discuss.
yeah, yeah. So we don't forget.
Have you guys heard of like the Amazon bullet point sheet prior to the meetings
Mm-mm.
thing?
I want to take a quick moment to interrupt the podcast and talk about this video's sponsor, OA Alphas. OA Alphas offers high quality leads lists to help you grow and scale your online arbitrage business. Whenever I started getting into online arbitrage, leads lists were foundational for helping me understand the OA business and growing my business to its height. OA Alphas allows you to get profitable online arbitrage product leads every single day, Monday through Friday, in exchange for a set monthly fee. If you're looking to grow your online arbitrage business or gain back some of your time or learn more about OA, then I highly recommend you check out the link down below to visit oaalphas.com and start receiving those profitable leads every single day. Thank you, OA Alphas, for sponsoring this episode.
So this got me really thinking, right? So as I've mentioned a couple of times, I have a W-2 job, and I feel like this happens a lot where we have a meeting about, a certain subject, and there gets email sent out like of pre-information that you should know prior to the meeting. And then you get to the meeting, you haven't read what you were supposed to read about whatever updates there are, and then you just kind of wing the meeting and you just kind of BS your way through the whole thing, right? So what Bezos does in his boardroom meetings, he doesn't give anybody any information, any data of what the meeting really is about. He has his assistant write out a 3 or 4 page bullet point of important information about what the meeting's going to be. And in the beginning of the meeting, he purposely puts 30 minutes into the meeting so everyone can sit there in silence and read throughout the whole agenda. So that way everyone's up to date, and then everyone can start talking about what they need to talk about. And in addition to that, he starts off with talking to the people that are, I guess, like the lowest rank in the room, and goes up from there, because he tries his best to put everyone in an environment where they're not going to be swayed of the opinion. So for example, it's human nature, if Bezos gives his opinion, it's human nature for you to start thinking that same way, because you're like, okay, Bezos is the CEO, he's done this great thing, maybe he's right about X, Y, and Z, right? He has the experience, he has the knowledge, he's gotten to where he is because of X, Y, and Z reason. Maybe he's right, and then you start switching your opinion. So he reverses it. The person at the bottom of the totem pole gives their opinion first, and then goes from there. So that's a way you can time manage, be efficient, and in your guys' case, when you guys are having breakfast and you have like a little agenda, because you guys are talking about business, technically it is a business
It's a
breakfast
business
meeting.
expense.
Yeah, business
Yeah,
expense. What
exactly.
I think it's like that's something that also has changed my perspective, because sometimes I might get in the headspace where I'm like, oh, I feel so busy. I've got 2 W-2 jobs or whatever, and I'm coaching and I'm doing this stuff on the side, and I got tournaments on the weekend or whatever, and I just feel like the time I do get with my friends, I'm like, I'm not getting quality time. Like, I'm not getting to talk about certain things I want to talk about, or just sit back and relax. And I think changing my perspective there of whatever time I am spending, that's the time that's supposed to be spent. Those are the things that are supposed to be talked about. Is like, it sounds dumb and corny, but really that's something that actually like changed in my mind. And I feel like what you were talking about before there as well is like, in these same situations, is set yourself up to succeed with the time you do have. So set yourself that hard bedtime of putting your daughter to bed. For me, it's 9:30. I'm going to bed. That way I'm rested and I'm not fighting as hard. You're still going to fight to get out of bed in the morning. I get my workout and all that stuff that I'm in control of, right? Like, I can be to the minute, to the second with my workout, with my breakfast, getting to work on time, so then I can deal with whatever fire needs to get put out in the morning, right? I think Logan is great at that as well. When I first started working for him, I saw how rigid he was at, okay, I'm going to bed, and he just rolls over and like 30 seconds he's asleep. In the morning, boom, he's out of bed. Like,
It has to be
clothes
done.
are ready on the floor. Yeah. Yeah. That kind of things. I mean,
I
that's
can do the
like Ben
bed
Franklin,
thing.
right? Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So it's like these
Amen.
aren't new ideas.
And a lot of the things that you see, like the inspirational stuff that you see, like on TikTok, Instagram, and like the clips that go viral, it's you start reading books and books that were published years ago. You start to realize that a lot of these ideas and there's a lot of these tips aren't new ideas. Even if you start reading the Bible, like you start
Ecclesiastes.
realizing these are not. These are not new ideas.
Nothing new
They're
under the
just
Ecclesiastes.
sun.
things that just get lost in
Yes,
translation.
Ecclesiastes. I believe that's
Yeah.
chapter 2 or 3. Nothing new is under the sun.
These aren't as we're saying, these aren't new ideas. People, the roadmap has for success has been written out. You just have to be dedicated
Yeah.
enough to follow it and
And
stay
some
true to
people have
yourself
to
to get it
find it, right?
accomplished.
Like I remember where I
Yeah.
was the first time I heard going to bed early. Like I literally remember my uncle. I mean, he's like 50 something at the time or whatever, and I was in Taiwan having breakfast with my family, just like a brunch, and I just remember him saying like, "Yeah, I've been going to bed like earlier, and I'm more productive. I don't use any of that time I was staying up before. I'm waking up, I'm working out." And I remember as like a high schooler, I was like, what? Go to bed early? Why would you do that? But like now I'm like, I heard that all the way back then, 6 years ago or whatever, and it primed me to use that knowledge now today. So I think a lot of that is like really beneficial.
So I have a question for both of you, and this is just because I'd like wrestle with this opinion, kind of back and forth. Do you think it's Okay, do you think it's more important to set realistic goals and deadlines, or to implement the Parkinson's law, where reverse Parkinson's law really? Because if you don't know what Parkinson's law, basically, if you give yourself 8 hours to do a 4 hour task, you will fill the 8 hours completing that 4 hour task. But if you reverse it and you do a 4 hour task and you try to accomplish it in 2 hours, you might accomplish it in three, doing better than you would have in the
I
first
believe
place.
I
Which one do you
believe
think is
that
more
it is
important?
important to attempt to achieve as much as possible in as small amount of time as possible, knowing that you're probably going to fall short, but if you never fall short, then that means that you were missing out on what you could have achieved. Does that make sense?
That's a quote. Clip that.
That is a quote.
Timestamp.
That's
So,
the Patriot. Aim small, miss small.
yes, sure. So, honestly, there's a lot of times where there's items on my list that don't get completed, but I guarantee you I get a lot more completed because my list is so packed every single day. Whereas if I were to say, okay, this is actually how much I could get done, this is how much time I'm allowed, I'm just going to get these things done, a lot less would get done. But because I'm pushing myself to get as much done as possible, more gets done. So I just not too long ago finished Elon Musk's new biography by Walter Isaacson. Fantastic read. If you guys have time to read 700 pages, I highly recommend it. One thing is Elon Musk has the same 24 hours as you, and he's not doing time management. He's
Yeah,
managing
he does.
himself better. But anyway, he has this.
Well, we
Well,
think
I'm
that.
just going back
And I
to
say that
earlier.
because in Harry Potter, Hermione did find the time
Okay,
traveling thing, and she went back and forth. So Elon
this is
could have
true.
found the
It's a
same thing.
possibility.
Just saying.
Maybe he developed some kind of machine.
Continue.
But what I was going to say is he has this rule in his production process, basically, where they have all these different procedures, thousands of different procedures, right, to develop a car. And he thinks that you should question every requirement and always delete like anything that seems remotely unnecessary. And you're going to missteps. A car is going to be built incorrectly because you're deleting so many steps. But if the mistake never happened, that means that you didn't delete enough
I like that. That makes a lot of
faster.
sense. And it's interesting that you bring that up because I think in the past I've brought up the idea of building a like flower pot, whether you spend a year trying to make as many flower pots as you can, or spend a year trying to make one perfect flower pot.
As many as you
The
can.
more
Always.
repetition you
Faster,
have,
faster,
as
faster.
many as you can, you master it faster versus trying to do it one. But okay, so continuing with this theme of time management and kind of what you brought up earlier is how you try to put tasks on your day, tasks for your day. One thing that I do and that I've found very useful in my day to day is every night, most nights before I go to bed, I write out what I want to accomplish the
Mm.
next day on a piece of paper on one of these handy
Oh,
dandy
Cisco, I'm
notepads.
glad you mentioned
Okay.
this. You make a GSD, right? A get shit done list?
I don't know. I just do it. I don't know.
It's a GSD?
Yeah, kind of. I call
Yeah,
it a to-do list.
GSD.
It's a little more appropriate,
He has a little daughter. Come
um,
on.
but 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 I would say 95% of the time I don't get my list accomplished. But
Good.
what I do is before I go to bed, I circle the three most important
I like
things that I
this.
need to get accomplished the next day, and I consider those. I don't know if you've heard of it, the eat the toad method. Have you heard of eat the toad?
No, tell us about it.
Okay, so Eat the Toad is based. I forgot where it's from. It's from a book. I don't know what book it is, but Just look it up, Google it, you'll find it. Basically, you do the most challenging thing that you have to do the next of the most challenging and the thing that takes the most priority, the first thing in your day, the next day, because you have accomplished eating the toad, which nobody wants to eat a toad, but sometimes you
What
have
if
to eat the
somebody
toad to
likes eating
survive.
toads?
Once you eat the toad, everything, I mean, fried,
It's
if
a
you want the truth,
delicacy.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a delicacy. But anyways, back, it sure is. Toad legs. But the point is get the hardest thing done that takes up the most priority first. That way, the rest of your day is a little bit smoother, and the other tasks become a little bit easier to accomplish. And you've gotten the big chunk of your
Yeah,
day
I like
completed with
that
the
because
first task.
that way you have this long list of things that probably not all are going to get done, but you know that you're eating that toad and getting the most important things done. So Cisco just
Yep.
shared, a system that he uses. I'm curious if you guys have anything else, any tools, any apps. What do you do to ensure that you're getting your tasks done every single day and scheduling your time and all that? I'd love to hear from you guys, and then I'll share what I do. All right, I'll go.
Can we repeat
Yeah,
the question?
yeah. I'll
I
go
zoned
first.
out.
So I'm just asking, really, like, what are some systems or tools or apps that you use to make sure that you're managing time and making sure that all your tasks get completed? So for me, obviously,
Okay.
Google Calendar, and I share that with the people who do a lot of things with me. So a lot of business stuff, work, they're on my calendar. They can always see and schedule time. And then we schedule things out months in advance. Josh and I have a pizza party in April, and it's January right now, so always scheduling ahead. We have stuff scheduled for next year too. Always looking ahead, always getting that calendar booked. I use my reminders a lot in my iPhone, so I have things that if they need done every day, they're recurring reminders every single day. Or maybe something random will pop up, like Josh is going to get us wax next week. We texted about it today, and then I had to set a reminder to remind myself to order that wax. So it said, hey, hey Siri. She says what? Remind me to get to order the wax in 20 minutes. That way, when I'm free, I can sit down, I can make that phone call, I can order that wax. So that's really helpful to me. And then also, I utilize that GSD, just writing down what needs to get done.
Nice. So, yeah, I do some of the things that you say, and I'm glad you asked this question because it ties back into what I asked earlier. What do you think is more important, setting realistic goals or doing the reverse Parkinson's law? And that's because I always have this issue because I like to time block, right? And the way that I time block is I have a certain task I need to get accomplished. I don't use a calendar. It's probably one of my worst habits is that I don't use a calendar. I
How do you
really need to
function,
start using a
brother?
calendar.
That's crazy.
Exactly, bro. I just use the calendar you send me, and I just
That's
try to
crazy.
remember things. But back to my point, I try to. There's certain tasks I try to do, so I try to time block daily of a certain task. If I need to get something done, I say, okay, I can get X accomplished in X amount of time, and I use my Alexa because she's everywhere, and I set a timer for the time that I think I need to get it accomplished in, right? And that's where I start wrestling with it because I have in my head an expectation of if I just sit down and focus and like knock it out, I can get it done in this amount of time. Or I can set myself a realistic time of, okay, my daughter's going to walk in, she's going to ask me a question about, the ecosystem or whatever, and then I'm going to get sidetracked, and then it's going to take X amount of time. That's why I wrestle with that. That's something I'm working on daily to try to figure out on my end. I have the to-do list that I do on a daily basis, and then those are the main things that I use to try to go throughout my day. I have, if I have like any doctor's appointments or any appointments in general or this podcast, Logan is really good at sending calendar reminds. Obviously, every appointment that I have gets calendar reminds, and I hit the little button to add it to my calendar. If the button's not there, it typically won't be in my calendar. The wife also puts our dinner dates in our calendar now, so that way I don't. She knows I'm not going to do it. So I try to use a calendar. I'm just not good at adding things to the calendar. But that's what I do for the most part. The main thing is that to-do list.
Yeah, so for me, I'm pretty appointment based right now. So, like Tuesday, Thursdays, practice at 8 to 9. Um, you know, Wednesday, yada yada yada, whatever it may be. Now, what I try to do when I get up is a lot of times if I have something that's like abnormal, like I need to go to the bank, or that's not a good example. I'm gonna go get a massage or whatever. I'll try and send a text, or a doctor's appointment is great. Send a text to that person of
Yeah.
confirmation of 4:30 appointment, right? Um, and regardless of whether they respond back or not, then it's like at the top of my text chain, list of texts, and so that way it's just a little reminder there. If it's something you can't text, like a bank, then you can just go in your handy dandy remind app, set a time for it to remind you 30 minutes before. So then it just pops up on your phone.
Nice. You know, throughout this conversation, two things that kind of came up that were very interesting. And if you weren't 100% paying attention, you just let it kind of glide through the top of your head, you would have heard Logan say he needs to order wax for Josh, who needs to get a wax. All right, so you got my things that I do to try to time management, and you have Logan's, you have Josh's. I think you need to set your own time management idea and what works best for you. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. Logan's a calendar guy. I am a write it down type of guy, and Josh is task it, right? He's a wax kind of guy. So set your priorities, see what's important to you, and only you will know what is best for you to get accomplished for the day. And also shout out to Atomic Habits, because if you read the book, you actually,
Shout out
you'll
Atomic
fall,
Habits.
your habits will fall down to
Yeah.
the level of your systems. So set systems in place so that way you can be successful and you can time manage properly as long as you put your priorities in place correct. That's all I got. I would say spitfire questions, but
Peace.
me
Boys
over
out.
is the answer.